So because of that relationship that's always true, in math, we want to name those things. We want to name them. So let's go to the next page. And we are going to learn the names that they gave those. Okay. So angle pairs. So vertical angles. This is vertical angles. Are opposite angles formed by two intersecting lines. So again, I'm just going to draw some two intersecting lines here because I'm very visual. Vertical angles, these opposite ones, what did we realize? They were congruent. So we're going to call these opposite angles, we're going to call them vertical. This angle and this angle are opposite. They're called vertical and they will be congruent. Adjacent angles are pairs of angles that share a vertex but one side. So they're just next door neighbors really. So this angle, first of all, this angle and this angle will be vertical. This angle and this angle though, do a different color. This angle and this angle are adjacent. And then there's two more terms. We have complementary. So complementary angles are two angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. Complementary angles look like this, right? This is a right angle. This little box means right angle. We all know that right angles equal 90 degrees. So if we break this right angle into two pieces, we could say that this angle and this angle are complementary. They will add up together to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, this is the one we just learned about. Supplementary angles, if I go back to my two intersecting lines. Supplementary angles, right, if we take a straight line, again, which equals 180 degrees, that if we take that line and we break it up into two other angles, then that means that this angle and this angle will add up to 180 degrees. So let's use those to find some unknown angles, okay? So here's our first example. We have this diagram here. We have a whole bunch of angles here, but they did give us some information. I know that this angle AFB, that's this angle right here, AFB, that's going to be X. They told us that angle BFC is 50 degrees. They also tell us that angle CFD is a right angle, so that's 90 degrees. And then we have some other angles there. So question A says, name a pair of vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles, going back up here, vertical angles are our opposite angles, right? Our opposite angles are vertical. We're looking for opposite angles. Opposite angles. So let's name a pair of them. I only see one pair of opposite angles. Because if I look at this angle, there's this angle which is across from it, but it's not the same size. You can tell that they're not congruent. This one and this one, again, we don't have opposites. But we do have opposites with this one. And this one. Right? That's because, remember, opposite angles, you need these two intersecting lines. This line intersects, this line intersects. So that means that this angle here and this angle here are opposites. So that's why it is angle AFB, and angle DFE are the vertical angles. So then this one would be X as well. B says name a pair of adjacent angles. Again, those are just angles next to each other. There's tons of angles next to each other. These two angles are next to each other. These two angles are next to each other. These two angles. We just need one pair. They gave the example of AFB and BFD. Oh, this big one right here. And yes, this is an angle, even though it's cut. This is an angle. These two angles are adjacent. They're next to each other. Number C says name a pair of supplementaries. Remember what supplementary means. Supplementary means that together it forms a straight line. That's somewhere on a straight line. I broke it up into two angles. So we got to look for straight lines. So again, there's a straight line here, AD. There's a straight line here, BE. So either of those will work. They used these examples. They did AFB. So they're doing this straight line. AFB. So AFB. And then they did BFD. These two. Because this is the straight line. They broke it up with this ray. So this angle and this angle are supplementary. And then number D says, name two pairs of supplementary angles that include DFE. So let's look at DFE. So DFE is this one. So again, we just need a straight line. You can use the straight line this way or use the straight line this way. They decided to use EFA. So they decided to use this straight line. So they used this straight line here. So they had this angle, so then this must be the other angle. So that is EFA, and those would be supplementary. Let's go on to the next page. And number E says, find the measure of AFB. So again, we're still talking about this same diagram. So I'm going to go bring the diagram back up. This same diagram here. It wants us to find AFB. So AFB. So basically it wants us to find X. AFB equals X. So we're looking for X. Okay. So it says use the fact that AFB and BFD are supplementary. Right? This is our straight line. It's cut by this. So this is supplementary to that. Okay, so that's what it's doing right here. AFB plus BFD is 180 degrees. This angle plus this angle is 180 degrees. So AFD is X. BFD, though, we have to figure it out. Well, we know that this is 50 and this is 90. So if I add them together, I get 140 degrees. So we get X plus 140 equals 180. And we know how to solve equations. We're going to minus 140 on both sides. That becomes 0. We bring down the X and we get X equals 40. So the measure of angle AFB is 40 degrees. So let's reflect. What is the relationship between AFB and BFC? So the relationship between AFB and BFC. These two. Well, we know this is 40. We know this is 50. So what's the relationship? They equal 90 degrees. So angle AFB and angle BFC add up to 90 degrees. So the angles are complementary. Number 4 says draw a conclusion. Are angle AFC and angle BFC adjacent? So again, let's go look at them then. AFC. So AFC, this big angle here. And BFC, this angle here. So remember, in order to be adjacent, they have to be right next to each other and they can't overlap. So right now, AFC is overlapping BFC. So they are not adjacent. Because they overlap. So now it's your turn. What I'd like you to do is pause the video and try these 4 problems on your own and see if you can answer them using what we just learned. Again, you probably need to go back to this page where it talks about our vertical angles. Maybe go back to this page, understand the relationship between angles that are opposite and angles that make a straight line. pause the video. Okay, so let's see how you did. It says we need to name a pair of supplementary angles. There are lots of supplementary angles here. I'm not going to name them all, but to help me do that, step one, we find a line. Find a line that goes all the way across. The first line I see is this line here. This is just what jumps out to me. Then we just have to take this line and break it up. It's already broken up into two pieces. Not just pick one of them. And so these would be our angles. So I have angle FGA. Angle FGA. And then I have angle AGC. And angle AGC. Notice I don't use B because I didn't cut or use that array. I just use this one and that one. Then it says name a pair of vertical angles. So we know vertical angles are adjacent from each other, but we need those two straight lines. So we had this straight line here, and let's have it intersect this straight line since we already did that. Let's talk about these two straight lines, and we just need two angles that are opposite each other. So again, I'm going to start with FGA. Angle FGA is vertical to what's across from it? DGC. Angle DGC. Then it says name a pair of adjacent angles. Again, adjacent angles are just angles that are next to each other. Any two angles that are next to each other. So since I already marked up this angle here, I am going to use that one and just pick one of the angles next to it. This one or this one, it doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this one. So these two angles are next to each other. They are adjacent. So I have angle DGC and angle CGB. And then it says name a pair of complementary angles. Remember, complementary angles will add up to 90 degrees. And I marked this up so much, but you should be able to see that there was a little box here. A little box here, so that was 90 degrees. But this is a straight line. So if this is 90 degrees, that means this right here is also 90 degrees. And this pair has already been broken up. So here is my 90 degree angle. And these are my two angles. So we have angle AGF and angle FGE. And then number 9 says, find the measure of angle CGD. So let me mark that one up. We were looking for C, or C, here's C. C, G, and D. So we're looking for C, G, D, this angle right here. This is the angle I'm looking for. Well, I don't have this angle, so I can't do supplementary. I don't have this angle. I can't do complementary, and I can't do supplementary. So I got to go across, which means we got to look for vertical angles. So this one is vertical to this one, right? This is the one that's across from it. These two are vertical. So this is the X that I'm looking for. Since these two are vertical, they both are congruent. Well, we just talked about it in problem number 8, that AGF and FGE are complementary, and we know complementary equals 90 degrees. So I know that these two angles together add up to 90 degrees. So I know that 35 plus X will equal 90 degrees. So we just solve for it. How do I eliminate the 35? Yep. I minus 35 from both sides. And 90 minus 35 is 55 degrees. So angle CGD, or the measure, since I actually found the measure of CAG, equals 55 degrees.